What's up again, everybody? Since our last video, we've had another 8 cards spoiled, so we're going to cover all 8 in this video. Let's get started. We're going to start with the Runeblade cards that were spoiled first, then we'll move to the Warrior cards, and then we'll move to the 2 cards that were sort of not really classified into anything. Well, I guess one of them was a Ranger card, so we'll move into those next. So first off, Reaping Blade is a Runeblade weapon, sword, two-handed. It attacks for 3, and it has a once per turn action, pay 1 and attack. So you can pay 1 to attack for 3. If you're comparing this to the original Runeblade weapon, the Nebula Blade, of which I have one actually straight up out so that I could read it to you, it says once per turn action, pay 2 to attack, and it only attacked for 1, but it did have the stipulation wherein if you had played a non-attack action card prior to attacking with Runeblade, it would get +3. So technically, it was like every time you'd actually use it, you'd pay 2 to attack for 4. This is a pay 1 to attack for 3. I actually kind of like paying 1 to attack for 3 rather than paying 2 to attack for 1, but most of the time 4. But I think it works both ways, especially if you're building a deck around using something like Nebula Blade by playing a lot of non-attack action cards. Nevertheless, this also has a cool ability that is really interesting for multiplayer play. It says, if a hero has more health than any other hero, they can't gain health. So if you're playing a 1v1, this kind of doesn't really have as much utility, right? You could still use it, of course, because if your opponent has more health than you, they can't gain health. But it's more interesting if you're playing Ultimate Pit Fight. I think that's what the multiplayer format's called. I've actually never played the multiplayer format. Let me know in a comment below if it's good. But in that format, if there's like 4 players playing, if 2 of them are tied for the highest life total, those players now can't gain life. Now, this isn't the most impactful thing in the world. I don't see a ton of decks trying to gain life as sort of a win condition, but I do think it has a lot more playability in a multiplayer format where you probably would use a little bit more life gain and gamesmanship to try and outlast some of your opponents and take like a second place, right? So this makes a ton more sense in that format. Next up we have Meet and Greet, which is a 1 cost. It pitches for red, but this is a cycle version of this card, so there's a yellow and a blue version as well. This is the one that we're looking at is pitching for red. Okay, so it attacks for 4 because it's a Runeblade action attack. It defends for 3, and it says if Meet and Greet hits, create a Rune Chant token. If you've dealt or deal arcane damage to an opposing hero this turn, Meet and Greet gains Go Again. Okay, so first of all, I love that this card creates more Rune Chant tokens because that's my favorite thing to do in Runeblade decks is to just make a ton of Rune Chant tokens, right? And then trigger them off and try to hit for massive amounts of arcane damage. I think that's super cool, okay? So I love that it does that. I think that's like already pretty decent. But then the fact that you can just give this Go Again if you play this in the second portion of the combat chain, assuming you're floating into your turn from previous turns with Rune Chant tokens created, the fact that this just has Go Again and you're paying 1 for it is just, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. Also, I should say the art is so cool. She looks so creepy. I love the monocle. It's so classy, right? You got to get that monocle in there. I think that's amazing. But like looking at what's on the board and what she's like chopped up, and she's just turns around to say a casual hello. Just so funny to me. So this card seems really good. I would include this probably like a 9 of, just because it's a 1 cost action that attacks for 4, that triggers off Rune Chant token creation. That triggers off Rune Chant token like triggers. Obviously it makes them trigger, and then it just most likely has Go Again if you're playing this second in the on your turn in the combat chain, right? Seems good to me. Okay, last card, but definitely not least, Mafrian Skies. I think that's how you pronounce that. Mafrian Skies. It might be that because mauve is the color that's used here. Mafrian Skies is a 0 cost Runeblade action. It's a rare. I was trying to fit that in there somehow. I just didn't. I should have said it's a 0 cost rare Runeblade action. That's what I should have done. It defends for 2. This is also a cycle, it would appear, because it's a rare. So we have red, yellow, and blue versions of it. And this one says the next Runeblade attack action card you play this turn gains Go Again. And if this hits, create 3 Rune Chant tokens. And this obviously has Go Again. That is sick. So basically play this with anything that's Runeblade attack action. That you want to push extra damage, or sorry, not push extra damage, that you want to like make a must block to your opponent, right? Because the fact that you're just creating 3 Rune Chant tokens, if they don't fully block this, means that they're going to need to expend resources, or they're going to be resigning themselves to taking 3 or spending resources later to defend that 3 arcane damage down the line. This card is sick. Okay, now the number will change. Like if you play the yellow version, this will say if it hits, create 2 rune chant tokens. If you play the blue version, it'll say 1 rune chant token. But the fact of the matter is, this is a Runeblade action, okay, that you can play early in the turn, and you can build up rune chant tokens with, and then you can pop this, pop all the rune chant tokens you create with this after the fact. It's just like, oh, it's so good. This is so good in Runeblade. Like, this is, again, this is a 9 of, and I love that this is a rare, and I love that the previous card was a common. Because they're just so, they're like to my play style when it comes to Runeblade. It's just making a bunch of rune chant tokens, playing a decent attack or a pretty good attack, popping all of those and making your opponent go, okay, how do you want to defend this? Would you like to try and block all of the rune chant damage? Would you like to try and block some of the attack damage? Pick your poison and take some hits. I think that's great, and that's one of the reasons why I like the Runeblade class. So those are the 3 Runeblade class cards that we've seen. Now let's shift over to warrior cards. Okay, now let's dive into the warrior cards, and we're going to start with Out for Blood, partly because it's a common, and partly because it's literally the dude, oh my god, let me show you. It's the dude on the picture behind, oh wait, that's a Runeblade. It's that guy. Okay, look, it's the dude on the background that I've been using. We finally have a face to the face. That doesn't make any sense because we already had the face. It's literally the card that he shows up in. Maybe he shows up in more. I think he's going to be a big player when it comes to lore, but you know, that remains to be seen. You can see in the picture as well that he's holding the corpse head. It would appear that it's a head. I'm not quite sure, but he's holding the corpse head of something with white fur. And in the background, there's things with like the little spiky backs and dragon wings, and that's kind of like what we see him fighting here in the corner along with his clan. Kind of like that, right? So we can kind of assume that this battle is being depicted in the card here, or the aftermath, I should say. But anyway, let's talk about the card. Out for Blood, it's a common, it's a cycle card, so you get the yellow and the blue as well, so it can pitch for 3 different resource types. It costs 1 to play, and this is an attack reaction, okay? So you can only play it in the attack reaction window. So after you've declared an attack and your opponent has either chosen to declare blockers or not declare blockers, then at that point you can choose to play an attack reaction, right? It could defend for 3 if you want that. The main effect that this has says target weapon attack gains +3 attack. And of course this is the warrior class, so you're going to be attacking with your weapon, right, as your primary source of damage for the most part. You will play attack actions most likely, but it's all about that weapon, right? So giving your target weapon attack +3 attack is already solid. We've seen that play out before. It's a pretty good little buff. Now, Reprise, and this is where Warrior comes in, because Reprise is the Warrior keyword, and Reprise can feel a little bit nasty when you play it and bad for your opponent. So Reprise, if the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand on this chain link, aka in this little exchange where I play this attack, you defend. If they defend, then your next attack this turn gains +1 attack. So not the one that you're playing, but the one that you're saving up to play next, right? So is that ability super duper good? It can be, yes. I think it's really cool. They choose to defend and you play Out for Blood. Then you're essentially saying, well, the cards that you just defended with are all well and good, but the next attack that I attack with, you will not only have less cards that you've defended, or less cards in your hand to defend it, but it'll also be a stronger attack because you chose to defend with that. And I think that's cool. I think that's really cool. If you could then buff that even further, it gets even crazier. But I like the idea of being able, as a warrior, to punish your opponent in all sorts of ways, in all forms and fashions. And this is one of those ways that they do that. Now, the next card also does that. I like the next card even better. The next card is Dauntless. Dauntless is also a 1-cost warrior action. This one's an action, not a reaction. It's a 1-cost warrior action. It's a cycle. This is a rare. It can block for 3, but it also says your next weapon attack this turn gains +3 attack. Okay, so same effect. And then we see this part. The next defense reaction card the defending hero plays this turn costs an additional 1 resource to play. Go again. Okay, so obviously it's got to go again effect, which is great because you're going to want to follow this up with like an attack, of course, so that you get the +3 attack. But I love that it hurts your opponent from playing defense reactions because that's the one way they don't trigger reprise effects, which I love. Oh, it's just so funny. Warrior's so mean, and it's solid and consistent, and I love that as a warrior player you have the access to both of these forms of punishment for your opponent. You punish them for blocking with cards from hand with reprise. You punish them with blocking with defense reactions by making them pay more resources to actually use those defense reactions. It's just all around mean. And again, this is a cyclable card, so you could play this in 9 ofs, right? You can play 3 reds, 3 yellows, 3 blues. And of course, the reds are obviously what you see here. 3 attack buff, 2 attack buff for the yellow, 1 attack buff for the blues. But it's just so funny that you can just punish them in all ways. It's like you never want to play against a warrior, especially if you're new and if the warrior player is good, because you're just going to go, ah, crap, I just got screwed there. Ah, crap, I just got screwed there. It just does not feel good. This is a solid class, and I think these are 2 solid cards. If you agree, let me know in a comment below. But now, let's talk about their final card, which is also a spicy one, and probably my favorite art of the 3. I like this one probably the best. I just love the people with the, you know, the knights with the swords, like Arthurian legend. I love that. Okay, Unified Decree is a mythic. It is a 2 mana or 2 resource cost warrior attack reaction. It only pitches for yellow because it's a mythic. It's not a cycle. It could defend for 3. It says target weapon attack gains +3 attack. I think we have a theme. I think that is like a theme here. +3 attack is a thing. This one also has reprise, and it says if the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand this chain link, aka the reprise text, look at the top card of your deck. If it's an attack reaction card, you can banish it, and if you do, you may play it this combat chain. Okay, so here we have another way to punish your opponent. And this is like the super high rolly way too. Like I feel like someone's gonna get high rolled out of the game by this card, and they're gonna table flip at some point in the game of Fab, right? Someone's gonna flip the table because Unified Decree came down and hit like the one attack reaction that's still left in the deck. I can imagine it now. Now this ability is not consistent enough to be run unless you play some opt effects. Opt, of course, is the ability that allows you to look at the top card of your deck and either leave it there or put it on the bottom of your deck. Okay, it's like Scry from Magic the Gathering. Without an effect like that, this doesn't have as much play, because if you're guessing what's on the top of your deck and you're not quite sure, then this card, you play it down and it just totally whiffs. I mean, it still gives you a +3 attack buff, and that's solid, but you're paying 2 for it, whereas we saw a +3 attack buff on an attack reaction on a common card for 1. So like for half of the resources, you can get the exact same effect. So you want the reprise effect to trigger here. And in order to get that to trigger consistently, you're going to have to include opt. Now, opt is played in a lot of different ways already. Well, it can be played in a lot of different ways, I should say. So that is possible to work into a warrior deck. Now, will we see that actually happen? I don't know, maybe. We might see that. We might. Let me know in a comment below if you think so. Okay, let's move on to the last 2 cards, and both of them are awesome, and both of them are awesome in different ways. But the first one is a generic card. This is Garganian Tome. Garganian Tome is a 0-cost generic action that pitches for nothing, attacks for nothing, defends for nothing. It's a legendary, even though it's a mythic, it's got the legendary keyword that says you can only have 1 Garganian Tome in your deck, and it says draw X cards where X is 1, so you're always drawing 1 when you play this, plus the number of Garganian Tomes in all graveyards, okay? And then it has go again. So this is literally a 0 mana draw card. So it's pure cycle, okay? And cards that are pure cycle are generally pretty good, okay? Across most card games. Cards that are pure cycle, they're pretty good, okay? Because if you think about it, card game fundamentals, you want to build the smallest deck possible to provide you the most consistency from game to game possible, pulling good cards, full of good cards. And if they're not full of good cards, the cards that are not good get you to good cards, okay? So here we have a card that gets you to other good cards. Solid. Now, there's a ton of crazy, funny stuff that this card goes along with. And the first one, and the one that popped out to me the most when I saw this, and this was posted by fabdb.net, fabdb.net, I think is what it is, .net, not .com, .net. Okay, and it was posted by them, and they listed out a few things that they saw the use for. And the first one that popped into my mind was the use in multiplayer formats, right? So if everyone's running Garganian Tome, and 3 people have played it before you, this for you is a draw 4. That's stupid. Draw 4 in this game is insanely bonkers. It's so dumb. Okay, so that's amazing. Even if this is just a draw 3, a draw 2, who cares? That's great. This is almost like you never play this card first in Ultimate Pit Fight. Okay, if you're playing in that format, if you're playing in the Commander-esque multiplayer format, you literally never play this card first. Or if you do, you want to play another card next to it that allows you to pull it out of the graveyard, of the discard pile, whatever. Something like Remembrance, right, from Welcome to Wrath. If you play this alongside Remembrance, then you can mess with people. You can play Garganian Tome, draw your card, play Remembrance, pull it back out. And that would be pretty cool. But if you play this first, then you're literally giving all of your opponents 1 extra draw off of yours. Okay, this just triggers so many other crazy things. It's too much to talk about without just sitting down and making a video listing out all the little synergies. I was reading this great post on the Facebook group, the Flesh and Blood fan page, and there was just like list after list after list of people saying great things that you could do with this card, and they're all correct. Some of them I hadn't even thought of yet. So if you wanted to see a comprehensive list, go check out the post on the Facebook group and just read through it. It's pretty hilarious. This card is awesome. This card's going to be very good, and I can't see a reason why I wouldn't play this card. I think it's just straight up, I can't see a reason. Tell me a reason if you can think of one, because I can't really think of a reason, except maybe you didn't want to give your opponent an extra draw, but you can kind of play around that, right? Last card. Let's go to the last card. And the last card, oh, it's a Ranger card. And not only is it a Ranger card, it's it's a good one. Oh man, it's a good Ranger card. First of all, look at the art on Remorseless. That is so visceral. That is so visceral. Like, I can't quite tell the people back there, but they don't look okay. Don't look okay. All right, so this is an arrow, first of all. Ranger class uses arrows. If you're new to the game, uses arrows. Arrows are a specific type of attack, okay? This one costs 1. It's a mythic. It attacks for 5. It attacks for 5. Did I mention that it attacks for 5? It's a Ranger action arrow attack, so you have to do the arrow things, which you see in the parenthetical text there. It could defend for 3 if you want it to. It says, if Remorseless is put into your arsenal face up, until the end of the turn, it gains defense reactions can't be played from arsenal to Remorseless's chain link. Okay, so most of the time, defense reactions can be found in the arsenal. That's where you put defense reactions. And the reason you put them there is because that's the best place to put them, because it gets them out of your hand so you can draw an extra card at the end of your turn, and then you can play it easily from the arsenal by just pitching from your hand and playing it from arsenal. So it's like a 5th card slot in your hand normally, okay? This card makes people go, crap, crap, I don't have that in my hand anymore because I put it in my arsenal and now I can't play it. Okay, this is in a lot of ways just like Command and Conquer. If you know Command and Conquer, the other mythic from Arcane Rising, there's a lot of similarities here. Oh, I should read the rest of the text. Holy crap. If Remorseless hits a hero, until the end of their next turn, whenever they play an action card, they lose a life. This card's insane. This card's so good. Okay, also remember what... I just want to bask in this card. It's just so good. Okay, remember what Ranger... the Ranger effect can be. Like, you can give your arrows Dominate. And Dominate means you can only block with 1 card from hand if you're the opponent. If you gave Remorseless Dominate, okay, if you gave it Dominate, then not only can they only block with 1 card from hand, they can't play defense reactions that are in their arsenal. They can only come from their hand. So they would have to have a defense reaction in their hand, and they would be able to block with 1 thing from their hand. So the chances of this hitting, and this is not even to say that you can buff this up, but the chances of this hitting, just straight up because it's 5, are fairly high, unless your opponent is literally holding cards in their hands just to defend Remorseless. So if you get this off early game to both trigger the face-up arsenal thing and the Dominate effect from Azalea herself, this is crazy. This could be crazy. Like, I will be so happy if this card makes its way into my collection. I'll just put it that way, because I think this is an automatic 3 of, and if you had to nix any Majestics from any portion of a Ranger deck, this one's always going to stay. You could cut any of the other high rarity cards. This one will always stay, probably from now until until they print something even better than this. So there it is. Those are all the cards that have been spoiled since my last video. Which of them is your favorite? Sound off in a comment below. That is the question of the video. Which of these cards is your favorite? Is it Remorseless like it is mine? Or is it Garganian Tome? Or is it any of the Runeblade or Warrior cards that we talked about? Let me know in a comment below. And if you would like to support the channel in any way, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can like the video. Okay, that shows me that you want to see more fab content. You could subscribe to the channel. That would show me that you want to see more videos, period. And then you could, if you wanted to, you could go hop on Patreon and you could support me via Patreon. Those are the ways that you can support the channel. But even if you're just watching and even if you're just commenting, that supports me as well. And if you're one of those people, I want to say thank you very much. And as always, thanks for watching.